Instructions for accessing subtitles in a language other than English are included on our board meetings webpage as well as in the description below. Instrucciones para acceder a los subtítulos en un idioma que no sea el inglés se incluyen en nuestra página web de reuniones de la Junta, así como en la descripción a continuación.
Bye.
Alright. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. It is 6:05 and I am calling the Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees regular meeting to order. Today we have a closed session beginning at 6 p.m., 6:05, and we will have public comment before the closed session on closed session item only. The meeting is being live streamed via YouTube. The link is on our website for the board docs. There is a 60-second delay on the YouTube presentation. There's an audio recording of the meeting that will be made available to the public on our district website within 72 hours following the meeting. And public comments related to agendized closed session items, as well as those related to items that are and are not on agendized during open session, may be provided in person at the meeting location. And with that, I will move to our next item on the agenda, which is the closed session. I'm going to identify the closed session topics. We have two items on our closed session. The first is inter-district transfer appeal pursuant to Government Code Section 35146, one case. And our second item is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, subdivision D2 or 3, special education program dispute, one case, student SSID 292-724-0425. And with that, I'm going to ask if there's any public comment. And seeing none, I will move us to closed session at 6:06 p.m.
Bye.
All right, welcome back. It is 7:28 and we are reconvening into open session out of our closed session. The next item is reporting out from closed session. On the first item, which was inter-district transfer appeal, that was denied with a 3-1 vote. On the second item, which was conference with legal counsel regarding a special ed program dispute, that was approved with a three votes in favor and one abstention. The next item on our agenda is the procedural items. The first one is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would like to join me, you may please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is to adopt the agenda and time allocations. Did anybody?
Do you have questions on closed session? So typically what the board voted and they just reported on their vote. There was a 3-1 to deny the transfer. I think they have some feedback they'd like to offer you and me, but they'll do that. They'll give that information to me and I'll follow up with you directly and we can have a conversation before we go to the October 8th at the County Office of Education.
Okay, so should we wait?
You don't need to wait tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. I will follow up with you over email once I hear feedback from the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item was to adopt the agenda and time allocations. Did anybody have any changes to the agenda? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda and the time allocations as stated.
And second.
All right, Shelley,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
and Rachel, aye. All right, so we have an agenda. Our next item is communication, public comment regarding items not on the open session agenda. Anybody have any public comments? All right, seeing none, I will move on. The next item is correspondence and communication to the board. We do not have anything listed, so I will move on to E, presentation and or action items. The first being recommended approval of resolution 032425, affirming September 15th as the beginning of National Hispanic Heritage Month. And I will turn this over to Tyler.
Yeah, and we have a resolution for your approval here that talks a little bit about the importance of National Hispanic Heritage Month, celebrating everything that Latino folks have contributed to education and to our country. It's important that we affirm that. We have many Latino families in our district and want to recognize and affirm them as important members of our community. Based on board feedback, we're happy to bring other resolutions for other months as we move throughout the year. This is something I've seen other districts do, and I feel like it's a good way to recognize the diversity of our community.
All right, anybody have any questions for Tyler?
No questions on this particular thing, and I appreciate the additional information about recognizing, the ways in which we as a board can recognize the different months. And I know in the past there had been a conversation around having a clear calendar or a discussion around which ones we do, how do we decide, and then also kind of a through line between what we do as a board in terms of those recognitions and a through line into the schools and the classrooms and tying it into what they're doing with the students in the classroom. So just a comment about continuing that through line in these kinds of things between board, school, classrooms. So. Yeah,
I was actually in Miss Diaz's classroom this morning, and in her classroom library she had an array of Hispanic heritage books prominently displayed in her classroom library, which was really great to see. I appreciate that through line, and we can make sure we do that.
I do want to note just a special shout out to Daniel Diaz. My son is in her class, and there was a young student in her class who does not speak English, and Danielle is teaching bilingually in that class. And I just think that it just shows the dedication of our teachers and dedication to the students, regardless of the number of need. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Sorry, one other note too. Thank you. Appreciate that. I don't know if we can, I don't know how this shift might happen, but it did come up in one of the meetings in the last couple of weeks, is to have our, given that it's the Heritage Month, but using the term multilingual learners as opposed to English language learners in all of our administrative and kind of stuff that we do. I think I've heard it used a lot in classrooms and those kinds of things, and I don't know if that's a shift that we could make in terms of when we report out on disaggregated student information or in any of our kind of board level reports. I'd like to see that we switch to using multilingual learners instead of EL. I'd like to see the whole state switch, but we can do what we can do.
But mostly it has shifted. It hasn't shifted in past data of what they name the student groups, but everywhere else I see it shifted, and we have made big efforts. It's a language shift, but it is a thing that we've done.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've seen the shift happening, so I was just encouraging us to continue to make it universal. So I thought it'd be a good thing to bring up.
That's a good
given our recognition right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially in in the DLAC meetings, we're talking about having dual languages or more than two languages is like a superpower. So it's
really is. Yeah.
It's a nice thing. So I was happy to see this Heritage Month pop up. Do you have any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for discussion and a vote. Further comment? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
I would make a motion on the recommended approval of Resolution 032425, affirming September 15th as the beginning of National Hispanic Heritage Month.
I will second that. Shelley?
Aye.
Rachel, aye. Chris?
Aye.
And Ryan?
Right.
All right, great. Thank you for bringing this to us.
Absolutely.
Our next item is special education compliance and improvement monitoring for significant disproportionality. This is Eric Sewell.
Yes, thank you so much. Tonight, I want to share with the trustees and the public a process that Ross Valley School District and actually a lot of other districts in Marin County and across our state are engaged in. The state monitors public school districts to make sure that we're all applying special ed practices consistently and to fidelity, but also to making sure that no group is falling into disproportionality, and I'm going to share exactly what that means. So disproportionality, what is it? It refers to the overrepresentation of any particular racial or ethnic group in one of these four areas. And the one that pertains to us tonight is in special education within a specific disability category. So there's 13 disability categories that a child can qualify under to receive special ed services. And some children can qualify under multiple. But what we have found between the years of 2020 and 2023, 3 consecutive school years, is that our district has been proportional in identifying white students under the eligibility criteria of emotional disability. And so we've been in sort of a lower level monitoring ever since I've been here, since 2020, where we've had to engage with the state, do file reviews, submit kind of reports on what we're doing to try to support our students, to make sure that we're doing our IEP processes appropriately, which we are. But what we see is that when the risk ratio is above 3.0, meaning that that particular subgroup is 3 times or more percent likely, 3 times or more likely to be qualified under that particular category, that's what's called disproportionality. So you can see the exact number of students, white students, from year 1, 2, and year 3. So with that 3-year run, we are now in significant disproportionality status. Though it's interesting and positive to note that last year we were not disproportional in this area. However, we still need to engage in the process of looking to resolve the root causes of the disproportionality. And it's a 27-month cycle that essentially began in this past spring in April when we were notified of our status. So currently we're in step 2. The second report is due to the state October 10th, which of course we'll have there on time, where we look at the data and we're trying to analyze the root causes. Question?
I apologize. Can you go back to how we are disproportional?
I think I understand. You're saying that the threshold is a 3.0 ratio, and that we're actually disproportional in that more white students than what is the comparative group? Than
other racial groups in this eligibility category. So what it means is that white children in Ross Valley School District are over 3 times as likely to be identified in this category. Therefore, there's disproportionality. For example,
the category being emotional disability.
Emotional disability. So, for example, other districts have, for example, Hispanic students under a specific learning disability. As one of our neighboring school districts is under watch for that particular area of disproportionality. So, what it is that it's a safety net that the state has to make sure that public school districts are not using special education to just, quote, deal with the issue or the, children that are having challenges or struggles. The idea is that special education is a last resort, that we should be exhausting all means in general education, tier 1 and tier 2 interventions to be addressing the needs of students.
And the disproportionality issue is such that your statistical outcomes for students in in these categories should not be trending along lines of race. You shouldn't see statistically significant trends by
certain racial groups that are over 3 times as likely to be in that category. And you can see, and again, we're a small district.
This is a white district. I mean, how do you reconcile?
Well, so you're asking, and no,
Sorry,
I'm smiling with you because this is something that, and the people overseeing the process that I'm engaging with from the state, and that support districts in going through this process are awesome. They're great people. And this question comes up. If a school district is a majority X racial group, isn't it more likely that there's going to be instances of disproportionality? Right. So it's a bit of a catch-22 because also per IDEA and Child Find, we have to do our job, which is to assess, evaluate, and qualify children when we have concerns about them. And if they qualify under the area of emotional disability, we've got to serve them.
That's what I got confused about, because it's like the majority of the kids in this district are white.
That's right.
But how can you measure disproportionate?
Compared to other racial groups in special education in our district.
And there's no formula factor that does the calculation for also calculating in the proportion of that student population in your district. In other words, if you're 80% one race, there's gonna naturally, they don't factor that into the formula?
There's a lot of math that goes into it, like it's like a 2 or 3 page sort of treatise on like all these, equations that they use, but essentially it's in comparison to other racial groups in this particular area of disability.
You could imagine in a school district like ours where you might have, 30 Black students across the district, if none of them are labeled as or qualify for special education services under emotional disability, then this would start making it disproportionate for white students because there's no Black students or no Latino students that have qualified, or just one. The small numbers make it really challenging. That's right.
And they don't. There's no statistical. What is that? So in other words, you would have a 3-to-1 disproportionality if 3 white students were, and they don't do some sort of calibration for the fact that you've got 300 white students and 30 of another race, 0 in that other race, and therefore your 3 times would have to be more than 3, but they don't do that, it sounds like.
So I've asked a similar question, and I think that it's a case of the state having a mechanism to have this safety net, I'll call it, to make sure that there aren't districts that are just as means of, again, sort of keeping kids out of a less restrictive setting. And I don't think that their algorithm, if you will, takes into account districts that are going to be.
It doesn't calibrate for population size, basically. It doesn't calibrate for differentiated population sizes.
I mean, there's districts, some tiny districts, including in Marin, who are, under some degree of kind of state watch. I mean, most of the districts in Marin are small. There's districts that are smaller than we are.
Okay, keep going.
No, great questions, and I wish it were clearer. So the steps in this process, again, a 27-month process, these are the steps we've already taken. We've looked at our policies, procedures, practices, infrastructure, meaning our staffing, our hiring practices, our just all the things that that are part of our program. We've also gotten parent input, staff focus groups, and a comprehensive data review in just about everything under the sun: academics, attendance, behavior, suspensions, expulsions, all that. We did a case study file review of 10 students, under emotional disability to, again, dig into what are we seeing, what trends, patterns. And I even had a representative meeting of our educational partners team to get feedback on that data. And this is kind of the wonky slide with the full title of what this team is called. But essentially, this is the team, the CIM team, that is charged with creating a plan for early intervention, early intervening through general education means to target students and support them before they require special education services. So the idea is have it be part of a systems change process and not just a compliance, check the boxes. And the fiscal impact is that this is the smaller portion of our special education funds. And Chris has been awesome in, walking me through this, but 15% of that will be set aside to invest in this 27-month plan. And that works out to about 45,000-ish, something like that. So it's not some astronomical amount, but again, those dollars will be invested in the plan that the team creates, and also will help offset the cost of the person from the state that's helping us kind of coach us through the process. Real quickly, this could be a 40-minute presentation by itself, but we looked again high and low through lots of quantitative data. And this is from last year, our total special ed enrollment. You can see the breakdown of students by race. And this tracks fairly cleanly with our district population, the race breakdown.
You're lumping Hispanic and white together?
That's how they do it in their metrics. Yeah.
It's one of the racial categories that actually is,
It's an ethnicity.
it's an ethnicity versus a race, Hispanic ethnicity, race, white.
So quickly, 3 big areas, the success gaps that the analysis has brought about that are going to help kind of inform next steps. Attendance, our students with disabilities have a much higher rate of chronic absenteeism, that's missing 10% or more of the school year, than our overall population. And that's an area of critical focus for our whole special ed team and our district as a whole, of course. Academic students with disabilities are behind in English language arts per the state tests, and in mathematics an even higher rate of being behind. And so that's also an area of concern. And it's fair to say that it's also connected with the attendance challenges. And then in discipline, the 6.7% suspension rate is much higher than district-wide, which is somewhere between 1% and 2%. So we also convene focus groups, and just real quickly, patterns that came out of the focus groups in terms of what are the challenges students are facing. Not just the students that we're looking at under emotional disability, but certainly, we have a very specific focus in terms of this process. Anxiety, school refusal, emotional and behavioral issues. The impact of COVID is absolutely something that I know personally brought out from different settings. Different school settings, children that were really suffering, and we jumped in and engaged with those families, and a lot of times ended up assessing those children. Academic pressure, parental expectations, financial stress, community pressure. These are all things that came up as in the focus group conversations for the team to consider. So this is kind of this is maybe the most important thing for me to share with you now, because this really informs step 3 of the process, which is after all this, just immense, just hundreds of pages of looking through the district, our structures, student outcomes, is trying to get to those root causes. What's driving this disproportionality? Okay, because that's what our Our charge is to reverse that trend and see that in this case, white children are not 3 times more likely to be eligible under that category. So the need for more early intervention and prevention services in general education, this is not to say that there are not those supports, but we see the need is great, and we're again trying to support kids before they get to special education. How can we help them get that support so they don't need to be in that 10 to 12% of children getting special ed? The need for increased trauma-informed practices. We've had a lot of PD around this. Our counselors and social workers are amazing resources, other community-based agencies that we partner with. However, the impact of COVID-19, it's receding, but it's still there. 100% it's still there. And we're seeing the ripple effect again in the through the lens of special ed. And then the lack of access to mental health services, and this is beyond just what's going on in the district, it's also community-based too. For example, there's some agencies that provide what's called wrap service. That means that they'll come and support the family in the home. They'll provide parent counseling. They'll help with the family dynamic. But right now, the only way for a child to access that is if they're in special education, and the waiting list for some of these agencies is months to get just one kid in the door. So that's an issue. So our next steps, to summarize here, is identify the target population of primarily general education students that we're going to focus on, that we want to really lean into. Where are we seeing that tipping point? So how can we focus on those kids and turn the ship in the other direction? Develop a theory of action. If we do X, we will see this result. That's the work of the team. And then, of course, as I said before, allocate those funds into those general education interventions. Last thought is that, the work to support special education students is the work of everybody in this district, everybody in this room, every classified and certificated administrative team member. And really to call things special ed and general ed in a way is getting to these categories and that can be harmful, I think, in certain ways. But what we want to see is that all children, all 100% of them, are getting these kind of robust academic, social, emotional, and behavioral supports before they need the more restrictive kinds of services that special education offers. Are there any questions about what I've shared tonight?
It's thorough. It's good.
One quick question.
Yeah.
In the data, are we differentiating between white Hispanic and white non-Hispanic students to further refine our understanding of the disproportional population group?
Yes. In terms of the children for whom were identified as disproportional as white students, non-Hispanic.
White non-Hispanic.
Yes.
Okay.
And so so 2 is that we again, in doing the case review, we know these children by name. We're like digging into their personal histories, their educational histories, etc. So we have a real clear sense, and being again a small district and like 14, 15, 18 children, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about a very small amount.
No, that's fine.
Relatively speaking. So really what we need to do, the bigger lift for us now is to identify who that target population is going to be. And that target population needs to be at least half white, but it won't be entirely white. We're going to cast the net so that whether it's, we're needing to determine, are we focusing on a particular grade level? Are we focusing on children at a particular school? Etc.
That answered my question, just because it was just more of a terminology question, because you had been using population of white students, and then there was another slide that said white Hispanic, and so I was just clarifying that we were distinguishing between the two, so we know if we're using the term white students that we mean white non-Hispanic, and then as differentiated from white Hispanic. That's a helpful clarification.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. And I do think that the thoroughness of this, as I think you articulated, is also like the curb cut effect, where you're doing a particular intervention for a particular population that is also uplifting and supporting a larger community of students all the way around. So it's a benefit to all of our students in the way that this is being approached. So I'm noticing that and appreciating that as well. So it's going to benefit in a kind of concentric circle rippling effect. So
thank you for jogging my memory, because again, the connection to the LCAP is absolute in terms of goal 1, focusing on academics, goal 2, student wellness, goal 3, parent engagement, and how we, all of us, again, in our different roles, are engaging with families and you know, in an effort to support them, whether it's something short term or something longer term, as it pertains to their child. So the team is also very connected and guided by the LCAP. This is all 100% connected to that, and so it's not a separate thing. It's not some like specialized kind of one-off kind of deal, and again, the team has been really amazing. Our principals, our cabinet team has sat in on the focus groups, have sat in on the different team meetings, and their investment in it has been invaluable.
Is there going to be more of a focus on the lower grades since they might have a longer effect?
That's where we have to get to. This is our next big decision, and we're meeting tomorrow, actually, speak of the devil, no pressure. But this type of support would benefit anybody. And our question is, where is it going to be best served? And initial feedback from the Ed Partners team was really interesting, because some were saying, hey, these kids about to go to middle school. But then other folks were saying, these TK kindergarten kids, like, can we lean in early and, you know, just pump as much support into their environment as possible? You know, because we're also seeing children that are having challenges there. So
I think the thing that I like about this process is this is a very scientific process. It's led by data. You have some working hypotheses. You test the hypotheses. You look at the data again to see if they work, and then you can apply them more broadly, like you were saying, Shelley. You know, if you apply it to younger grades, you can kind of see how it works in the upgrade. So I think that scientific approach is a good one that the team's taking.
So my last thought here, and I appreciate your time and attention and great questions, and pointing out some very interesting kind of schisms in the process, is that I will come back, you know, down the road to inform the trustees and public on where we're at in the process. Because step 3 is going to be exciting. That's kind of where the rubber meets the road. That's where we're going to have more of the action steps in this plan. And I do want to say that it's not that we're even talking about doing brand new things. It could be a question of attuning our practices or just pivoting certain resources and energies, again, in different ways, starting with this target population, and again, seeing how, what type of impact that has. And then ultimately, our goal is to stay out of disproportionality over the 27-month process, and I will be keeping you informed on how we're doing in that respect too.
Do we have any more comments from the board or questions? No? If not, I will go out to public comment. Does anybody like to publicly comment? No? All right. Seeing none, do we have anything else? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to our next item. All right. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
All right. So our next item is presentation on summer 2024 facilities projects.
Before we hand this over, I would love to just shout Chris out for the work you've been doing leading this department. And obviously Des for the work you're doing with the M&O department. I think this was one of the first things that I noticed when I came here was the facilities, and having quite a few conversations with both Chris and Des over the summer about facilities improvements, and their strategy and philosophy towards making improvements has been wonderful. I also want to shout out all of our maintenance and operations department. They are boots on the ground, making things happen each and every day. I've seen them on roofs and painting and doing just about everything, untangling pipes that should have been untangled years ago, and you all have been doing an amazing job. So this is a little bit of a celebration of the work that happened over the summer, and I'll pass it over to Chris.
Thank you. And I'm actually going to bring Des on up to the front. And do we have the clicker for him?
Oh yeah, here you go, sir.
Thanks. There you go. And it really is, did I have it off? Sorry, I actually turned my microphone off. It really is a celebration of the hard work of our small staff that we have. We might have 5 campuses in the district office, but what we really have is just 4 staff members within our department when everybody is here. So I want to say thank you personally to Des and his staff as well. And I'm going to turn it over to you. Go ahead and have a seat, Des.
Thanks, Chris. And thanks for the opportunity for letting me come and make this presentation to you. I'm 2 years, 9 months into this voyage of discovery, and this summer we tackled the most pressing CapEx projects, as well as some maintenance, repairs and projects, and we try and cram 12 weeks of work into the 10 weeks we have there, and hopefully there's no unforeseen geysers in the Brookside courtyard or of the like that we have to attend to. But I am very proud of the work that my department did over the summer to get our classrooms and our campuses presenting the way they did in the first day of school. So it's a credit to them. I'm also going to touch upon some of the behind the scenes work we did this year to make improvements to the culture in my department, get some buy-in from what is often an undervalued group of staff members, and I'm very proud of the work we did last year with Rick Van Adelsberg to get to that point, and I think there's definitely some progress made in that area. Okay, so this was an area, it probably didn't look like it needed to get done, but we did upgrade the painting, the first phase of this, on the interior courtyard at Whitehill, the 200, 300 and 400 building. I don't know if you've been there in the middle of summer, but the sun beats down on that. The paint was fading, and the cork at these siding joints was starting to compromise as well. So that's the first phase. We'll do the back half of those buildings next summer. It's funny because I saw an old photo of when this building was made. It was first built, and those plots there were full of shrubs. And I'd like to get back to that point. So that's something I'd like to work with my my landscape guys next year. So this was long overdue. The gymnasium restrooms at Whitehill. Had a complaint or two over the last 2 or 3 years about them. So we stripped the aged fibre-like material off the walls, and this is the left-hand side is what we were left with. And like if you've done renovations at home, they always end up being a lot more labour-intensive and costly when you first start. So we stripped everything down to the studs. For the first 42 inches where the tile was going to be put, we put in our own backer board. And then we put tile on the walls up to 42 inches. We brought in our Santa Glaze specialist with a new epoxy product for the floors and up the walls, so there's no grout exposed anymore, everything is sealed. And then we replaced, as I touched upon this last year, I know I mentioned this to you as well, Ryan, our sinks are all uniform throughout the school district, our faucets are all going to be uniform, so we're simplifying that process. And because they're being sealed, not only are we modernising these restrooms, they're going to be easy to maintain, they're going to smell better, and hopefully reduce some of our workload in future years. The Santa Glaze also, our existing restrooms that have been done like this, they've got a new epoxy product, and he did the routers in their other 3 restrooms and other premises as well. So this is what all our aged restrooms are going to look like in 5 years. So, so just so you know, Johnny and I were in there the last weekend before school, but getting everything back together. So it's that was the jewel in the crown for the summer. Off to Wade Thomas. Managed repairs here. It's amazing. I was there in spring break and that upper turf area was fine, and then I go back there a month later and it looked like that. So it's just a small fix, but curb appeal, it helps a lot, because that is it. This afternoon I was at Wade Thomas. There are a lot of people, like YMCA's there till 6 o'clock. There's a lot of community there using that playground. So
Before you go off of that, Des, you were looking at pricing that to replace the entire turf.
Yep.
Do you remember approximately how much that was?
130,000.
So that would have to go out to bid for us to do that, and we would have to have a funding source, obviously. I'm sorry.
Good job. This is not one of the not something you're going to see on campus, but there was a compromised roof. The photo on the left, it was an inferior product put on over asphalt, so the off-gassing had it break down at a quicker rate than it should have. So it actually, you can probably see on the left-hand side of the left photo, it's got under the drip edge, so the whole feet was like cornflakes. So we removed all that, we took it back as far as we could, we added a new product. And it's not something you're going to see, but this is the music room at Wade Thomas. But it's one of those things we undertook this summer, but it had to get done. You're probably aware that the TK program started this year. So we added a fence with a gate there. A lot of our summer came having to put in the lower tables. So these are all new tables for the TK students. And this was done on all our campuses, but here at Wade Thomas, we were moving Laurie from another classroom. So she came in this area, she was a little bit anxious, and I actually met with her yesterday, and she was so happy. She's got this dedicated area at the back of Wade Thomas to herself, and she's so appreciative. So that it doesn't look like much, but we had wood chips before the first day of school and that. So to see a teacher happy with her new surroundings, that was it means a lot. You're going to hear me mention front of house. We've done a lot of work trying to beautify our front of house. I'll go to a car park or a drop-off area at a school and say, first impressions. What do you think? What do you see from here? It's just like, this is the library area at Wade Thomas. There was cracks in the stucco, and I'm like, I don't want to leave this another year. So rooms 13 and 14 are behind there. We took care of the first floor. We'll look out for the second floor next year. But once you're in the wood chips at the front there, it just presents a lot better. It's a lot more inviting. Front of house, this is Hidden Valley. So I remember the morning, G Landscape were there, putting in the weed bat and that, and I heard a woo woo from the balcony up there, and Christy and Barrett, because I didn't tell them this was happening, and they were up there and just like, what is this? What are you doing? This is awesome. You know, so that sort of feedback means it's, summers are pretty hot and long and that, so to get a little bit of appreciation like that goes a long way.
When is the water used to keep that landscaping going?
That's a good question, Chris.
So how are we looking at cost? What do we do in drought? How sustainable is that?
That area there is probably pretty lush, but I know Sean is active. We are watering at the moment. Once we get that first rain, we dial it back. So we're at 5 days, then we dial it back to maybe down to 15 minutes a day. Okay, and then once we get that first rain, we'll go back to 3 days a week, and then hopefully we get over winter, we'll it'll be off altogether.
So in the summer, are we looking at that work perhaps dissipating, much like the lawn projects at
I think
Brookside.
that's definitely something worth looking into, Chris.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good example of a restroom before and after. So these are the, I think the kindergarten, first grade restrooms at the end of the middle building. So existing sinks, 3 different faucets in there. It was fibre light was coming apart. So fibre light is probably in the restrooms when I was at high school and that, and it's just water gets behind there, moisture gets behind there, there's mold in that. So once again, we took that off, we took everything down to the studs, and we did our own sheetrocking and mudding and that one. Sorry, Johnny did. And it's when a tile professional comes in there and says, Johnny, what you did here is just magnificent.
That's all tile behind the sinks now, right?
Yeah, so all tile. And so harking back to that 2-phase, so next year we'll bring Santa Glaze in here, and that whole thing will be sealed the same way as the Whitehall restroom.
You know, there was a study I read a while ago that when children go to the restroom and there's no mirror, they don't spend as much time in the bathroom. So I noticed that you took the mirror down, which is good.
So that was at a middle school in North Carolina. And
Is that where it was?
The average middle school student was going to the restroom 9 times a day.
Yes, to look at themselves in the mirror.
TikToking up against the mirror.
TikToking in the
took
video,
the mirrors out
making
and
faces.
3 visits to the restroom.
Yeah. So
That's funny.
I love how that's been put in there because that's great.
Of course, we had to put them in the middle school.
You can't get out of that, but the little ones like to make faces at themselves in the mirror.
This is one of the. I love going into the NPR at Hidden Valley. So some of the work we did last year on team building and working smarter, and the common bugbear amongst my custodians is we run out of time to finish, you know. And I said, well, we're going to work smarter this summer. No, and they're constantly going back to no, we don't get the jobs finished. So I brought in an industry professional that cleans hospitals and that. I've known him for like 11 years. And I says, what can we do? And he says, Des, we don't use floor stripper anymore. I'm like, okay. And I said, what do you use? And there's a pre-clean, it's an enzyme-based soil lifter. And we go in there, we buff it like that, and then we put on wax. And I'm like, okay. I said, the day before we started our summer clean, I says, can you come and give us a demonstration? So he came into Brookside, did a demonstration on that, showed my team how to do it. And one of my crews had finished 3 schools before the end of July, which has never been done. So we came in ahead of schedule. But even better is we don't have to buy floor stripper anymore. So we're saving on expense. There's no more fumes from the stripper, and we've saved time. And that I know my team appreciate this. The finish now is a hospital sheet, as you can see from those 2 photos. And I know 2 weeks ago we celebrated Bob Gavanini, and even though he's gone, I walk into that gym every morning and I say, Gavanini was here. You know, it's pretty awesome.
Does it change the traction at all, or is there any?
So far, Chris, it's as good as.
That's great.
Yeah.
So no easier slippage when it's wet or anything?
No.
That's great.
It just looks good.
Looks great.
On to Manor
and
another.
Yes.
This was I'm really proud of what went on here. So this gym needed a birthday, and I was trying to think how on the left hand side that's those antiquated lunch tables that never come down. Okay. So it's a 14 gauge steel on the outside, and for mica, I'm like, I can't paint that, it's gonna look horrible. And then I visited our other NPRs, I'm like, they don't have pads all the way around the gym, why don't I just field measure and get some pads? So I investigated this and I measured the pads and we installed those in August.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, it's night and day, and now I'm just working with Margaret to coordinate getting some navy blue curtains in there just to finish it off. So that's, I can't believe it came out that good.
I want to thank the Manor PTA for initially offering to pay for this, and then I also want to thank Chris for going to find the budget for the district to end up paying for this. So the Manor PTA was, very invested in this project and really helped this along. But then, I think through a few conversations between Chris and I, Chris, offered to pay for this through district funds, which feels like the appropriate way to make a move on a project like this.
That's amazing.
I was there for the back to school night, and it's night and day from when I saw it at the end of June when I visited with Tyler. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It's light, it's airy, it looks clean, and just the padding was really well done and really well thought out. So thank you.
Just curious, do you need to have curtains, or does it keep the birds from hitting the windows or something?
I think if you're doing a presentation there, Chris, there's lights.
Oh, to darken it for the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
I see.
Brookside. So we didn't have much to do at Brookside. Once again, just adding these wood chips to these areas. So I know last year we started off at Wade, Thomas and Whitehall, and we did that. So and then we added Hidden Valley and Brookside this year. So Wade, Thomas and Whitehall only needed a refresher. Next year we'll have only to do refresher at 4 schools, and we'll tackle Manor. So the following year it's just going to be refreshing. So it's not, the expenses are going to be the same. And of course, there was lots of maintenance project. Once again, once you start taking stuff off, it's like while we've got the roofing off, let's replace the wood and that as well. So pretty labour intensive, but we're going to turn to get the roofing out there the next couple of weeks. So this is. Yeah, this brings back some, I want to say memories or sleepless nights more than anything else.
Summertime.
Yeah. So let's start off on the left. So that's Brookside, obviously, and the reason I put that photo up, you'll see 2 repairs there, like in the space of 30 inches, 36 inches. Okay, and that both occurred in the last 6 months. We've had 3 there in the last 12 months. So unfortunately, I'd love to say we're done with them now, but it's just what it is. And it's just, and I hate to say it, but Johnny's getting really good at cutting asphalt really cleanly.
And this is the water leak that happened on Saturday.
And then
Yeah,
he came
so-
out to shut off the water
Yeah.
for it, and I got in touch with him. He
So
was great.
it's happening so often we're giving their names now. So we've got the Bellagio break, because when we first heard about it, it was students running through there. It was just geysers coming up through cracks in the blacktop, and it looked like Bellagio fountains. So
Celine Dion music playing too.
now this was we've had from June to August we had 4 breaks in the main line out at Whitehall, and the middle one there at the top, that it is.
These are on the fields though.
Yeah,
right?
this is on the field. Yeah. So what happened is my guys who do the due diligence, they'll uncover it, and we're looking at it like, who does this? There's at least 5 or 6 repairs, and they're all done before, like over 10 years ago. But there was no improvements done to it, and you've got a 3-inch line going to a 2-inch line. So we will foster out, and I'm trying to the analytical side and say, what's causing this? Is it earthquakes? Is there something causing this? So we tested the water pressure. The water pressure in there was 140 psi. Now I'm not a physics major, Ryan, but that's going through a 3-inch line. What happens to that 140?
The 2-inch line is going to be like 200 pounds of pressure per square
Thank you.
inch.
So it's just looking for a
Blow a hole in the
place
cement.
to burst. And so we brought them out, and you'll see the photo on the right. So this forester did this after they called their boss and said, "You've got to come see this. This is, but this is what we do now." We had a break recently at Hidden Valley, and that saddle, you see it on the right-hand picture, that's what Forester uses to help reduce pressure. What we also did is the center photo at the bottom, we added a pressure system with a cycle valve, which now reduces all our water pressure at all times below 100 psi.
The air bladder.
Yeah. But what we're doing, one thing I've impressed upon my head of maintenance, you all know Johnny, but my head groundsman Sean is like, when we bring out a contractor, okay, just hang around and spend half an hour with them, see if you can glean a couple of nuggets that we can use for future reference. So we have to call them out the next time. And they're both, add another arrow to your quiver. And Johnny and Sean have both done that. And then Peter and Hidden Valley, they put in that saddle system by themselves. So I'm so appreciative of those two guys.
I want to note that it's a philosophy that Des and his team have, is to get smarter and work smarter, because they've got an absolute skeleton crew and a skeleton budget. So where they can learn and sharpen their skills to do some of the work instead of contracting out is one of the ways that we're saving money and doing more for our facilities. And it's just a huge kudos to you and your team, Johnny and Sean and everyone. It's some really remarkable work.
I mean, you saved the district so much money doing that yourself.
You haven't got Johnny's invoice yet?
No, but
I also just want to appreciate it. Also, I think really aligns and fits with a lot of the continuous improvement stuff that teachers do in the classroom. And it's like so great to see that this kind of approach and philosophy and growth mindset is happening from fixing pipes in the facilities all the way into the classrooms when you're talking about math. So that just feels like a massive, wonderful alignment there in culture, mindset, and really appreciate that.
and inspiring the parents to show up and do campus beautification.
Yeah, Brookside's done a phenomenal
the
job.
the show up is pretty high.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Great.
If I could just add one more thing.
Yeah.
The photos that show the break at White Hill, part of the reason that the condition of White Hill's field is what it is now is because of those things. So those happen during the summer, forcing us to turn the water off. So you start losing the grass, then you end up inviting in your
pests.
yes, your
Gophers.
pests, gophers. And so with all of this work, we're trying to improve, and we're also taking other steps that are not part of the presentation as we move forward. We've been working with the town of San Anselmo closely in a partnership so that we can glean information off of them to improve our fields as well district-wide. So I wanted to say thank you to Des for that as well.
Thanks, Chris. So we like I said, analytical side of it, so what's causing that? So there's been 7 breaks at White Hill since February. And so hopefully we've now, with the improvements we've made, we'll be moving beyond that. And as Chris alluded to, we're going to go for another 6-week program of aerating and overseeing our fields and have to get White Hill back, or Letty Gomez back to where it needs to be. I mean, just last weekend we got 83 gophers out of there over the weekend. And harking back to that buy-in, this picture here on the right-hand side at the bottom, that tree there in the front was we had to remove a tree that was rotten, and Chris's philosophy is we remove the tree, you have to replace it with another one. So Sean's big into, he's a little bit of an arborist, and I said, Sean, can you pick a tree? Can you pick a tree that would suit that area? As Sean picks that tree, and now you see it there, you've got the tree, you've got Van Houten doing what he does, but every time Sean's there now and he sees a tree like that, it's just like, I'm invested in this, because like, that's me. And you might have realised that their turning circle at Hidden Valley, there was 3 plum trees that were diseased and blown over in the storm last year, so he's going to put 3 similar trees in there come fall. So, that's unfortunate. Those sites have become too common, so hopefully we can move beyond those. Once again, front of house and the solar retrofit at Hidden Valley. We were hoping to have this complete and up and running. It was tomorrow. It was supposed to come in, but I don't know whether you realise that the pinch from the Baltimore bridge collapse is now hurting the manufacturing sector in the Midwest. So connectors that they need will not be in until middle of next month. We're seeing the same thing with HVAC parts. What used to be here in 1 to 2 weeks are now 3 to 4. So everything's been pushed back. So, but we worked hard on that solar retrofit. I did an audit back in March to find out where we were at with our solar. Engie is the company I'm using. A lot of solar companies, they're very proprietary. If they didn't install it, they're not going to do any maintenance on your work, just like turf guys. But this company's been great. They've been very thorough, but a lot of, not even the solar panels are outdated, but the wiring was non-conventional. That's how the best put it. So the way I like to approach things is we're not just going to put a band-aid or lick a paint or something. We're going to do it properly and set it up for long-term success. So, like I say, I'm 2 years and 9 months into this. Every year, we're going to keep on working smarter, and our canvas is going to keep on looking better.
Good.
So, thanks for your time and thanks for your gratitude.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a comment. I was very concerned 4 or 5 years ago on this board, knowing the amount of institutional knowledge we were going to lose here at the district. I tried to dive in personally to do walkthroughs with your predecessor and staff and try to really get my handle, because I recognized I was a newer board member and I knew that the facilities issues were big because I actually understand this language. And I was very concerned when we were making this transition of how much stuff would be lost. And although I think they did a good job of documenting the projects, and when you were walked through, I think that they did a good job bringing you in. But what I'm here to say after 2 years and 9 months is when you and I met 2 years and 9 months ago, we talked about coming back here in 3 years.
Yep.
And we talked about economies of scale. If you're going to put tile in one bathroom, don't pick 5 tiles for 5 schools. Pick 1 tile, use it for all schools. Pick 1 floor, pick 1 concept. Like, economies of scale for any one business is expensive. Spread across 5 businesses, it saves a lot of money. So I'm really happy to see that discussion is now being implemented. And most impressive to me is the mindset is still here. Like, working smarter, we all know budgets are going to go like this. So how can we be smarter? And I am of one to believe that there's only one way to do it, and it's do it right. Because when you're gone and you're gone 20 years, hopefully from now, something like that the next person can build on intelligent work, intelligent design, intelligent time. And the one thing that I noticed for me, and my most important asset for me personally, is my time. And what I love to hear is how you are now working as a team to save time. And time doesn't mean it's faster. It just means that we're not going to go back and do this 3 years from now because we're not putting the extra money into this right now, right? And as you discover things, it's nice that we address them, because the small bandage patch stuff in the past is costing us a lot of money now. Yeah. And when we go back into that old house and pull it out, we recognize how expensive it is to go into every room. So I'm really excited that you're here. I think you are doing a great job. I don't really put praise on you on just because I think that it's very apparent to me when I see, remember when we looked at that little roof and we saw that pooling water, like we talked about this, hey, this is not this year. We got bigger things this year, but now to have this year's projects being worked on and size up what next year's projects are, and then there's going to be one we don't know of that jumps in there, but we're not having to put out all these fires at once. It's kind of a preemptive strike on all things that need to get done. And I'm really glad that the left hand is talking to the right hand, and that you're making things efficient for cost and for quality. So great work.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay. On to the Gaga pit.
I was hoping to get out of here.
I know. I just had to throw it out there.
It's in the out. I've got it.
I know. It was a joke.
Christina's emailing me as well.
It's a hot topic in
Everyone
our
else
house.
on there too. Thanks so much, you
Bye.
guys.
Thank you, Des.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's much appreciated. Alright, so no more questions. Do we have any public comment on this item? No public comment?
Just
Okay.
that it's great, and I know that particularly at Manor, the multipurpose room improvement has done a lot for morale, especially for has been Cosey's morale. She mentions it almost every time I see her, just because it's a part of the thing she's talking about. So I think it's done a lot for morale in general. So thank you for prioritizing these projects.
Nice.
Thank you.
And Chris, you do have that big massive project board, right? Like we should hey, this year's projects, when something comes up, it goes on your,
We're looking at things all the time.
but keeping them on a master sheet so that when you do have to rearrange or prioritize, I know that's a living document, but you're able to not forget about things as discovered, but prioritizing the most important, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I like it. Nice work.
And we will add to that list as we do our facilities walkthroughs here in the coming weeks. So we're looking forward to doing that with Des and the principal. And any of you are more than welcome to come along on those walkthroughs.
Alright. And with that, I will move us along on our agenda. The next item is recommended approval of contract for geotechnical engineering services for the site improvements on the Brookside School Bridge project.
So thank you. This is me again. Last board meeting on the 11th of September, we brought to you the architectural contract on the bridge. And we had mentioned that we would be coming back for geotechnical. And what they'll be doing is they'll be looking at the different areas of the project, because it's not just the bridge that I had mentioned. It will also open up the site, the campus for Americans with Disabilities Act changes. And so they'll be looking at those areas as well as the probably the bank for the bridge and all of that, just to make sure that when we're done, we have a bridge that will last, another 50 years. So.
Was there any opportunity to see if the city would provide any grants or assistance, given that we have not
reached out to the town of San Anselmo just yet, but we will be reaching out to them and also to PG&E, just to see if there's anything.
Great. I don't have any questions about the cost, except that I should have become a graphic artist.
Until someone asks for revisions. By the way, just let you know, the madness of all graphic artists is just go ahead, make one more change. Yeah.
All right, and there's no public here for public comment. Any other questions or comments on this item?
That's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. If there's no comments here, then I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve of the contract for the geotechnical engineering services for the site improvements on the Brookside School Bridge project.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Chris?
Aye.
Ryan? Shelley?
Aye.
And Rachel, aye. Thank you for bringing this to us, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And moving on. And just for the record, Daniel Cassidy is not in attendance at our meeting today. I forgot to mention that at the start of the meeting, so if you're wondering why he's being very quiet, it's because he is not here. Our next item is F, consent actions. The first item is recommended approval of certificated classified administrative personnel actions.
So we are losing a special education person. Do we have a replacement for them?
We're working on it.
Working on it.
So we've got just the two consent items.
Yeah, the two consent items. So
I'd make
entertain a motion unless there's.
I'll make a motion to approve our consent items for tonight.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Shelley?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Rachel, aye. And on to board business. We have committee updates and reports and announcements by trustees. Does anybody have anything they would like to mention today?
The parade.
That's all I had on my list.
These are just the committee.
Yeah, committee updates and then board trustee updates. So both. It's all in one thing now.
I attended the roundtable meeting and the superintendent's council meeting between then and our last meeting and now. And I thought those were both. I appreciated the presentations that were made, Tyler, very well received, the presentations, and I appreciate the kind of the way that you're looping all the stakeholder groups in our community. It was a great reason why we have those groups, so that we can involve the parents who are in the PTAs and the leaders on the sites. So I thought that was very well received to kind of get a really good understanding of our district finances and information about teacher pay and all that kind of stuff. Very well received. And it was nice to see the roundtable getting to move on from years and years of negotiating the roundtable agreement to be able to have the kind of conversations that I think they were all very much looking forward to having. So that was good to see.
Rachel worked very hard to organize a mascot show up for the San Anselmo parade. Daniel pulled it together and got some high school kids to show up and put on. We were fully dressed. The trustees did not have to wear any of the mascot uniforms. It came down to, it was like, I am the only one that's going to be in a mascot outfit, and I couldn't see out of it because the eyeballs are over here. My son was willing to walk me down, but it all worked out, and it was a great turnout. I thought people really enjoyed it. It was very joyful. We passed out lots of pencils, and I think just having a presence like that just shows that we're really vested in, bringing joy to the kids and having some future, in their eyes. It was really cute. Thank you, Rachel, for working on that.
Well, it was just really nice to have everybody who showed up. It always happens that way with the parades, but you just never know until the very end. Like, nobody will actually sign up on the sign-up sheet, but then everyone shows up for being there. So we had a lot of fun handing out stickers.
Stickers and pencils and candy.
Yeah, it was great. And I was actually thanked after the event by the person who organized that, Maddie. I think it's O'Grady at San Anselmo, who plans that whole event. And she thanked us in particular for having all 5 mascots there.
Wow.
She's like, it's been a long time since Ross Valley showed up with all the mascots, and she said, it was a really big people pleaser. So.
That's great. We also had the Brookside Bash this past weekend, Saturday. Great turnout. Everything from the giant bear rainbow to little stations where the littlest kids could have fun playing with chalk to an shave ice truck. The cutest part was the alum coming back and just walking through the campus and enjoying the bash as well. The 6th graders that they don't admit it, but they missed it, so they were there. And it was a great turnout. Families had fun. Just a shout out to the parent club at Brookside that really put on a great event this year.
I don't know if it's possible, but to somehow slowly bake into the culture of the parent clubs to be doing the mascot-y things in Fairfax and San Anselmo community events, if that's something. I know they already have so much on their plates that might not be possible, but it also might be possible. I don't know, just throwing it out.
I have a fun story for you. I had to turn in the bear costume back at Brookside, and I didn't want to walk through the campus with a decapitated bear in my arms. So I put on the bear costume and walked to school as I dropped my son off at school. I went through the campus saying hello, went into the office, and they were like, who's dresses the bear? And I was like, oh, because I didn't want the little ones to see the bear head carried through the campus. It was. Chris. So I'm there. I took one for the team.
That's funny. So I had some quick committee updates. I missed the last YES board meeting because it coincided with our trustee meeting. So I didn't get there on September 11th. I have just a couple updates for them. They're seeking a new executive director. I'm actually participating in part of the hiring process for that. So there'll be updates on that shortly, hopefully. they're having their Keystone fundraiser. It's been rebranded from being Battle of the Bands, and it's not going to be in the spring anymore. They're moving it to the fall, so it's now labeled the Fallapalooza. So that's going to be October 5th from 4 to 10 at the San Rafael Elks Lodge. I'd encourage people to go. There's going to be food, drinks, music. There's an auction. There's games. So there's both bands and DJs. So tickets are on sale on the Yes website. So that's for Yes, and then. Yes, I did the parade, which is a lot of fun. I attended the White Hill Middle School Back to School Night, which is always a super fun event. The teachers just they show just how much they can do for our kids, and they managed to do it in like 11 minutes. And you follow the schedule that your children go on, and it's really impressive to see the mini lessons that are prepared, the things that the kids have already done in just a few short weeks of school. And it's just really nice to see what they're learning and how they're being taught now. And it was just a really wonderful night, and a lot of thanks to the teachers who put that on, because I know it's a lot of effort. And also at the very end, there was some excitement with the rattlesnake on campus. They got hustled out of there by staff who apparently are very, very skilled at doing this now. And it was just like no big deal.
It was that night?
It was that night, right? So I was walking out, they're like, wait, stay back. I'm like, okay, are you seriously? Is that a snake? It was a little tiny rattlesnake. But yeah, they've apparently, and even today at school, my daughter came home. She's like, yeah, there's another snake today.
4 in 2 days.
Holy cow.
What do they do with the snakes?
They move them to locations off campus, well, just off campus.
Maybe they find their way back, right? If you move a
You gotta
rattlesnake,
go far enough away.
but then
More
they
than a quarter
die.
mile.
Then they
won't.
die.
No.
Well, what they'll do, for example, is put them at the end of the parking area, what they call the upper 40, so they'll move them out towards the end of it and just leave them there. Then the snakes it's within their small territory.
Interesting.
As long as it's not right next to where the children live.
And then besides that, I attended the Marin County School Board Association's Back to School Breakfast, which was the first event I managed to get to for them in a while. Because they usually conflict with my work schedule, but I was able to get there yesterday. And so that was really great. We got to hear about workforce housing projects in process from MCOE over by San Quentin, which is in process. They said it's fast-tracked, and they're anticipating a 7-year process for that. So that was interesting to hear.
Wow.
And that's fast-tracked. And then we also heard from Novato Unified School District, who is also in the process of developing or researching workforce housing projects for their schools.
Nice.
And so there was a presentation as well from College of Marin, and they were asking about interest in a countywide coalition. So as far as like getting other districts to buy in, and maybe all kind of look at how we could develop some kind of workforce housing on a scale of the economy, as you kind of were discussing with like fixing of all the properties. Just doing everything as a group maybe would be more efficient. So there's that, and I think that was all that I had. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the Marin County School Board Association. I was there as well, and I thought they always do a really good job at talking about economies of scale, shared services, sharing best practices. So I thought that coalition that they were talking about was also a great, very tangible possible sharing, because educator housing that's being built, even the one that's being built by the College of Marin and MCOE, is going to be, they haven't quite figured out how they're going to do it, but opened up to educators from across the county. So it's not just specific to a district. And so looking at how that can be done. And Nevada's put in a whole lot of time in researching all of the braided funding and the multiple funding streams, and they've got a lot of really good informational resources for districts that they want to share. So I think this coalition is going to be helpful in that.
If that was all we had for updates for committees, I will move on to our next item of board business, which is approval of the regular meeting minutes for September 11th, 2024.
I misspoke and said I wasn't going to be here, and that's in the minutes. And I don't know if you just want to, in these minutes, say she was here. I don't know if it matters, but I realized that. Sorry.
We wouldn't change the minutes.
The minutes of the time were correct. It just changed since then.
The content.
Yeah. I don't think.
I'll make a motion. You want to entertain a motion?
Yeah, I will entertain a motion, please.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 11th, 2024 board meeting.
I'll second.
All right, a motion is second. Chris,
Aye.
Shelley,
Aye.
Ryan,
Abstain.
and Rachel, aye. All All right, and then next item is discussion of and consideration for approval of the cost for Board of Trustees and staff to attend the CSBA Annual Education Conference 2024.
Yeah, I think I wanted to bring this to you all just to discuss if anyone was interested in going to CSBA. I know that many of you have been to CSBA already, but with me being new, if a couple of us wanted to go down just to learn from what other districts are doing with their boards and their governance, I'd be happy to entertain that. It's going to be happening on December 4th and 5th of this year. Is anybody interested in going?
Maybe, but I want to go more. Do they have their site up with all of their sessions and everything? Because there was one year that I went that was really helpful and useful. And then I think 1 year or so I went and looked at all of their sessions and I was like, oh, I'm not seeing the theme of the sessions that made sense. Do you need to know tonight, is this, what is this agendized as? Oh, discussion of vote.
Yeah, here's the schedule.
We don't have to pay for it
Is it?
until I think you can do early registration. Let's see, we missed the early registration. If we do it by November 12th, we get the $8.35 rate per person.
Yeah, you don't need to tell me
Later.
tonight.
I'm a strong no, because I have my firm-wide meeting in Washington, D.C., so I'm not even going to be around.
And I'm a strong maybe.
Great.
I'm like a maybe. Depends on a work schedule if I can get away for those days.
Great. I will follow up with you all in one of the board updates.
Okay.
And if you go from a strong maybe to a yes, we will register as soon as we can. And
Are you interested in going?
I would go if we have a trustee go, but I wouldn't go without a trustee.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
And I have done it virtually 2 years, and that was really good. But I don't think they offer that anymore. It doesn't look like it.
And I think they do a SoCal, NorCal switch, and this year's in Southern California. So, if we wanted to wait till next year, that's fine too, where it's a little closer and costs for flights and hotels might be a little less expensive.
I think, can't we vote
We can vote to approve it
to approve it if anybody wants to go, and then at least we have it.
take a vote approval pending people getting back to you?
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay.
So would the motion be to approve?
So the motion is to approve the cost for members of the board and staff who plan to attend the CSBA Annual Education Conference 2024.
Mhm.
That's what the motion would be.
And then if we didn't use the cost because we didn't send anybody, that would be fine.
Okay. So it sounds like there would be a motion to approve
The cost
the cost.
for board and staff
For
who would
board
like
and
to
staff.
go.
Sure. A motion to approve the board and staff, cost for board and staff to attend the CSBA conference.
Making the motion?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do I have a second?
We'll second that.
All right.
What was the motion?
To
To
approve the cost to
For
attend the conference.
board members and staff who would like to go. All right, so Shay? Okay, Chris?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
And Rachel, aye. All right,
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Chris?
Okay.
All right, and our next item is superintendent and cabinet report.
Great. I've been really busy over the last few weeks, and it's been a ton of fun. So I'll share a handful of things. Went to the Brookside Bash, which was nice last Saturday. Also went to Boots and Barbecue at Hidden Valley on Friday, which was also a big hit. Good to see families and staff. It's really fun to see staff that don't work at the school but are there because their kids are there, and it's just neat to see how integrated this community is. Also got to visit Walker Creek with the 5th graders over at Brookside, which was really nice. We got to go see the creek and look at some invertebrates and learn about the life cycle of salmon, which was really wonderful. I've been shopping around that budget presentation quite a bit. Shelley, thanks for mentioning that at the roundtable and the Soups Council meetings last Friday. Chris and I also got to stand in front of our RVTA, every teacher in the district, this afternoon and gave the same presentation. And I think it was well received. We got not a standing ovation, but we got a round of applause at the end of the presentation. So I think making sure everybody's on the same page with understanding where we are with our budget is well on our way. I think we've made that presentation 5 or 6 times now, so the word is getting out. Also went to the Marin School Boards Association meeting earlier this week, which was nice to learn about educator housing and how we might be able to kind of get our foot in the door a little bit, even though we don't have the bond money to do it on our own. Also got to visit 3 classrooms today at Brookside. Miss Puckett, Miss Diaz, and Miss Forshee. Wrote them some notes thanking them for opening their classroom doors for me, and saw some really good differentiated instruction and some other neat things from the teachers there. And then I've been really busy with goal setting meetings for our evaluations for all cabinet and principal folks across the district. So lots of good stuff going on, some fun, some
Business-like.
some more business-like.
Some new experiences.
All right.
Anyone from cabinet have quick updates?
I do have one quick one this evening. On Friday, October 4th, the district will be participating in the Marin County Schools Public Health Disaster Training. It's a training that they're doing countywide, and so we'll be taking part in that. And I know Des will be dealing with that directly. So.
Lots going on in the world of teaching and learning. Today we had our Wednesday meeting over at Manor School, and our teachers met in grade level teams for the first time this year, which is a really important time for them to connect across sites and spend most of their time talking about iReady and the implementation and how they're using the data. And that was great. They also all attended a training on iReady last week on Thursday, I think. And then our ELA adoption committee had their training on benchmark. And next week, the trainers are coming and doing a demonstration lesson, which they'll be watching actually 2 different lessons and debriefing those, and then having some time in the afternoon to plan. We have a TK curriculum training on Monday. Tomorrow we have the Spanish curriculum training. Today after school we have the Desmos math, kind of a virtual check-in. So just lots going, and teachers are working really, really hard and just doing a beautiful job of maintaining positivity and just, learning these new programs and integrating them into the really good work that they're already doing. So all terrific.
I was gonna ask you, do they have the Spanish textbooks in El Bajo now?
They do. Yep, they got those at the end of last week.
Amazing, thank you.
Just from student services, a whole slew of, meetings. I personally am attending IEPs for district kids, kids we have placed in county office classrooms, non-public schools, meeting with private school families, as we're engaging with them through assessment requests or doing reevaluations, and of course the same is true for our team members. And everybody's sinking into a lot of continued professional development. We had a group up at county office for a behavior intervention training, which was really terrific, presented by an awesome guy from Nevada Unified, who oversees their kind of behavior and special classroom programs. So and we had a wonderful team meeting today out at Manor before the budget presentation by Tyler and Chris. So we're all just working as hard as we can to support our new people, especially. So thanks.
Thank you all. And with that, we move on to future board topics and board direction. Do you have any input here in this area? No? I would like to get more information, and I did get a questionnaire from the MCSBA about, at the meeting, from College of Marin. God, so many acronyms. From College of Marin about joining the coalition and interest in that, and so I did fill out a questionnaire on that, but I just wanted to indicate some interest in maybe following up on that coalition. And I know they were probably gonna reach back out to our board at some point and give a presentation if we were interested in that, so.
And I have that on my list of things to do, respond to that
Great.
survey.
Awesome. Next item would be meeting debrief then, unless we have any other comments on that.
I don't know if we want to think about protocol and things that we've never done before we do them.
That might be good.
Yeah, but nothing else.
So we can definitely work on that. All right, since we don't have to continue past 10:30, I am gonna go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 8:56.